Okay, so for part one, we are going to firstly go through some monster design prompts just to help us get us in the right mindset to design a monster. So on the planning document, we're going to highlight types of characteristics you want to incorporate in your monster. So just remember that these are suggestions only. You're just going to use this guide as a starting point to help you consider the different types of features that of your monster that it could have. You don't have to follow these prompts exactly. You can change it up. So first of all, we're just going to highlight possible names. I like Bubbles. I don't just have to stick to these though. Then I'm going to decide on a name. Now, you might come back to this, but I already have a name and it is Bubbles Morning Star. Okay, and what habitat does your monster live in? So then you would highlight whichever one you decide. There's heaps, there's caves, under your bed, a fiery pit, of volcano, mud house, deep in the ocean, under a bridge, a castle of ice, a sweet cottage. There's so many different options. You don't have to just choose from this list. These are just prompts, okay? But I'm going to choose deep in the ocean. And then what facial expression will my monster have? He might have like a sleepy, confused kind of look. Now this can change. You don't have to stick to this. This is just to help you begin. And what texture is my monster's skin? Because he's under the ocean, his texture is going to be related to that. So we know he probably is going to be smooth and slimy perhaps. He might also be a bit bumpy. He could nearly be scaly depending on what kind of scales you use. Or he could have seashells on him. Okay, so this is how it looks printed. But here is a digital copy. So I'm going to get you guys to actually do yours on the computer like so. So type in your response next to the question. And just highlight the different types of features that influenced you in your decisions. Now, you might come back to this after you've done a little bit of drawing. But at the end there, write a description of your monster. So you might need to decide on a few things like what do they do, what do they like, dislikes, their favorite type of food. So here is an example. The name of my design monster is Bubbles Morningstar. He is a fiercely loyal monster who is protective of his friends. Blah, blah, blah. His favorite food is lobster. It's all up to you. There's a little bit of creative writing down the bottom there that we will get back to later on in the term. So it is a good idea to do this now because you are going to have to write a little bit more about your monster later on. Okay. Divide a piece of paper in half, okay? And then label it front view and back view like so. I have a template of this that you can print directly if you don't want to have to do all the hard work. Okay, so to begin with, we are going to draw on the front view side first, and we're going to draw a basic monster shaped head, okay? So I've provided with you some shapes, okay, of some basic monster head shapes. We're just going to begin with the head, and it's going to be, it needs to fill up a lot of this space, and it needs to be approximately 10 by 10 centimeters. So I have my ruler here. I might leave a little bit of room at the bottom for his feet and at the top for his horns, but I'm going to go about here and I'm just going to draw a little mark just so I know whereabouts to stay in line. You might just have to, if you have a ruler, I would suggest doing this because it just helps keeping things in proportion. Okay, so on the design, or on the monster shaped heads, I might choose this shape here. This looks nice and fluid. You don't just have to choose from these shapes. you might want to mix it up a bit, but it does need to be simple, stocky, and solid, okay? So I'm just going to kind of draw it looks like a bit of a bread shape to begin with, actually. We'll see what happens. Now this can change, okay? You don't have to stick with this exactly. It can change. Awesome. So the next thing is, before we go onto the back, we might just make this have a bit more detail about our decision making. You're going to choose a facial expression for your monster. Now, you can use one of these if you'd like. You don't have to, but you can make your decisions based off the examples I give you. But it cannot just be a simple line drawing, okay? You can't just be like, here is a monster, okay? Because that is boring. Please don't just do that. Try to actually have a bit of an open mouth and even some lips on your monster, okay? Because remember, we are going to be making these out of sculpture, so it does need to have form. Okie dokie. Inside your monster shaped head, this one here, you're going to draw your chosen mouth shape. Okay, next we're going to work on the eyes. So make sure your eyes match your expression and type of characteristics of my monster. So I said on my planning page that he might be a little bit confused or sleepy or maybe even shy. So I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to choose one of the eyes off the examples I've given you, and here we go, and drawing really big eyes, and that one there, that one there. Okay, and a bit of an eyebrow. Okay, so that's just the next step there. It's drawing a bit of a monster face. So you can choose from the set of examples, and you're also not limited to just 2 eyes, okay? You can also, you might even like to have 1 or more, okay? Or 3. Okay, so now we're just going to lightly draw in the back view. Remember to also measure this one as well. Don't just try to freehand draw it. The back needs to actually match the front. Cool. So I believe I've gone up a little bit there, which is fine. Just as long as the basic, most of the shape generally is the same. Okay, and that's all for today's lesson. Next week we will add a few more details. This is just a basic example. Make sure to spend more time on yours and make it unique. Do not just copy mine, and don't plagiarize a design from online, please. Be creative. Submit your work on Google Classroom and keep it somewhere safe for our next lesson. Be ready for part 2 next week.